What is up, everyone? This is Sarah G, and it is GenZ-Gab. Let's get into it. This week's episode has been very, very good. For anyone who was curious, who we talked to last week was Jeremy Gordon, a casting director and audition coach, and I was beyond grateful to have him on. So if you're in the industry or just thinking about starting out, go and give that a look at. I will be talking a little bit more this week about some of the stuff that I've been doing to at least help out slash I need more advice, so I'm going to talk. And yes, I just tried to fix it and it doesn't really go well. You're not going to look like perfection every time. So that's all I wanted to specify today on. And yes, I'm trying to work through a lot of different things. Currently having a lot of technical difficulties, if you haven't noticed, with my, lights, etc. So yeah, we're just doing what we're doing and trying to enjoy the ride. So on and so forth. But yes, it's been very fun to just kind of, get in contact with people, understand more. And yes, I'm going to talk about some TV shows. But Monday Mood is just going to be, again, anyone that's, been watching the news, etc. But I do want to speak out again about Minnesota teen activists slash all the activists out there right now, are especially because given the situation in our world, especially in the Gen Z era, we all need to band together and talk about things. And I think that they're doing such a great job. Gen Z for Change as well. I know I've mentioned this, numerous times on and off throughout this whole year. I can't believe it's almost been a year since I had my first podcast launched last year, and it's just so incredible. It's been a dream of mine. I will say that I have noticed changes within myself and comfortability that I think I've grown from doing this. And I just want to thank each and every one of you again that listens to this podcast. And yeah, just I'm very eternally grateful for it. So as we get into it, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite shows, and it is not Grey's, not yet. I mean, obviously I'll have to talk a little bit because it wouldn't be GenZ-Gab without my little Grey's Gab, but Single Drunk Female. If you know, you know. It's on Freeform. It's all bingeable on Hulu currently right now, and that has been very, 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 very great for me because I binge watched it all last night. And oh my gosh, when we last saw Sam, it was very and the mother is beyond like some people that we all know, and she tries, but it's still like no wonder, it starts to make sense why some of the problems she does. And I think that this just sheds light on to how toxic family can actually be. And when you're in a healing process, how much they're not really aware of what their mistakes might have been in the past. And I'm not even critiquing like the best of parents, whatever, but it's just that slow like evolution of things that we do not really know like are happening within ourselves. And I think that that's really cool to watch the growth over time and see her evolve from this very wild child to this sort of together person. Now, life is stressful, I get that, and that not everything's going to go smoothly, and I think that that was beautiful the way that the finale was. Do I hope for a season 3? Absolutely. I wish that I could have it confirmed now, but because Freeform has to do their thing and have all the episodes air, I truly don't want to give away too much. But yeah, I adore it. Sophia Blackdea is or Delia is phenomenal in the role. Give her an Emmy already, because she manages to tap into vulnerability that you don't know, but you see a lot of yourself. And I think that that's another thing that I would love to be a part of, that kind of a show. I had a session with my coach today, and he was very good about trying to get me to realize that I had more of an advanced scene. And we were talking about, and my process is, as you can see on here, is more talk, 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 obviously. But the way that I feel like so understood is amazing. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I don't really want to name drop because that's the thing, like with this industry, I sometimes find myself saying the same names over and over again, even though it's more of like a, these guys are experts. I want to make sure they're experts, but it's just so incredibly um interesting to see the different processes you go through and who you can work with. But I do recommend for anyone who's curious about taking acting or having one-on-one sessions, I will recommend LA on Camera for them. So there you go. It is very good to finally work with someone who is okay with your eccentricities. I think that there's a lot of things that go on right now that, people are moving forward with it. But when I was working on the scene today, it was for the 30-minute session. It was I had to do different eye lines. I had to do, push myself a little more out of my comfort zone, thinking that, oh, this conversation might not happen, but it's actually bordering on, kind of inappropriate but still appropriate. But then you have to realize something, that even though I'm a part of a generation that tolerates a lot less, it doesn't mean that inherently that is good or bad. It's not just black and white. And I think that that's another thing that I've had to let go a lot of with my ADHD and OCD also. And before anyone says anything, yes, I know I get on this topic all the time, but I think, again, the reason that I do so well with acting and can work with it is because, like I said last week, it's because I know that, high energy is needed. If you're trying to be just someone you're not, that's not going to work. And I know there's different types of acting, but I, again, stick by more the Meisner style, even though that's kind of less what I'm interested in the whole. But you have to bring yourself to the table of acting. At least that's the process more. I think method acting, like we've all stated in the past, even like Jenna Ortega, is that, like, when you're working on a scene, you definitely, I think, should have like a teacher that you feel safe with. And I've had a few where it's not always been the best or whatever. But I would say that if you're willing to, if you're looking into that, go and check that out, LA on Camera. So, yeah, aside from that, it was just when those type of actors mention how much, even like method acting, it just shows how much evolving is going on within. And then I think about how, within a scene, they were talking about a big name versus, like, kind of the newcomer, derpy looking person. And then that made me even think within, like, I already know not a lot of people are going to take a chance on me because I'm lesser known versus if they'll take like an Anna Taylor Joy. And that's okay as well. I kind of have felt like I'm in this rut when I'm trying to find jobs, not just acting jobs. And I just found myself asking a lot more questions after my last week discussion that I thought I needed to really have. And that's where it's like, I also realize when I take away my time, but it's all needed. But I do just want to say to people that you can ask your questions if you're ever like me in like a position where you're anxious about asking questions, like, because that's the problem, that a lot of people, no matter how many times they say that you should ask and should be like allowed to ask questions, that's not the end of the world. Like I say in the earlier part of the episode of where I was talking about asking agents all this stuff, and that I'm working through some stuff right now, and I still have kind of need to just figure out a lot of things. It's just so excruciatingly frustrating, the whole questions about your measurements, and for anyone. But again, a lot of these casting directors, if you don't follow Liz London, if you don't follow Jeremy Gordon, like I had on the podcast last week, if you don't follow Rose Rosen or Sam Slegitz, you might be missing out on some viable information. I'm not saying the end all be all, but I will just keep saying their names because of how much they've given so much reassurance, I think, for the rest of the world, especially with how many conflicting people you get in the industry. And I want to say that again, the reason that my whole perspective and outlook has changed is because I've decided to reframe my mindset. And I know people are going to say, why is this such a big deal to you? Why are you reiterating all this stuff? But it's because as I was filling out more of my things to crack down, to become more ready for the next step for all of the certifications or whatever, it just made me think. Plus, last night, again, I know I mentioned grays, but the fact of the matter is, them talking about all these different things going on within women, women of color, all those things, especially as women, like we need to band together. And the whole like thing about beauty standards, whatever. And yes, I know I fit a lot of the standard, but I still don't in a lot of other ways and with a lot of my own issues. And I think that that's just something that, is needed to be more said. But what I'm trying to say, because I know it kind of goes back and forth and confusing, but what we need to do is stand up more. And especially as white women or white passing women, especially, we need to stand up and speak, even if it gets more backlash. I know that that's easier said than done or whatever because they want us to be permissive but passive, but that's the only way that we can help create more of a change, especially with what's going on in the world. And that's why I just wanted to say some of my issues when I'm trying to work through a lot of things, when I'm doing this stuff to get through for my next step. And I know people are going to say, well, what's all of this got to do? This is how my life is. It's not just perfection, and obviously I don't show just perfection online on social media, etc. But that's the truth. And a lot of the questions that, it's less invasive than it used to be, but you still don't feel great answering some of those questions. And I know that I went into depth more last week. And the one thing is, it's like I have more shame to talk about my weight, etc. Which again, weight means nothing. We've always talked about it. The deep rooted BMI, shitty ass, made by a white guy from Europe. And it was a mathematician. Like, you want to go and see a scene again that was done. And yes, Grey's Anatomy, it was with Chris Carmack, Chandra Wilson, and Z Sinnott. And I just loved it because it had Perez telling Link what he needs to stop looking at, and then Bailey coming in with the whole BMI is bullshit. And like I say, there are a lot of creators I follow: Nutrition Tea, Beautiful Eats and Things, Diet Culture Rebel, Find Food Freedom, Happy, Strong, Healthy. I list a lot of those again because they're great resources, and all of their podcasts speak a lot. Yes, I know not all of them, still understand everything, and a lot of it is still thin privilege. But when you start hearing more of their stories of how to be against diet culture, it just becomes really truly gratifying. And I know people would say, why do you feel gratitude with it? Because it's like everybody's banding together and starting to call out the BS. Plus, it's just nice to see. Plus, the acting industry has now started to grow and expand, but it still bothers me that some of these questions are allowed. And I think when I talked about this earlier, where I was doing a scene, it's always like they're working on it. It still has a ways to go, it's getting there. But some of the things that you might think are unacceptable are actually way less unacceptable compared to some other things. Is that good? Is that bad? Who really knows? And I know that that sounds really dumb and like a double entendre, and your head's spinning because you're wondering who the hell, like, is this person talking about all this stuff? But yeah, it's just a bunch of like nuances, etc., that we have been all talking about that goes on within the industry, etc. And I think that, yeah, that's just a very interesting take. But I also have been watching way more again, like I said, How I Met Your Mother, all these other shows. But I do want to touch on something that's been bothering me more so lately. And I know that I even like invited some of these people on, but like Josh Peck, I don't know what it is lately, but I know I just burned a bridge, but it's like I believe what he says about everything. But lately, I just saw that Jeanette McCurdy clip and it just made me so angry. And she put up the boundary, etc. And then so many other people have been saying these things about, all these other celebrities that are saying how they didn't have a choice, they didn't want to benefit from their trauma, profit off their trauma, but now a lot of them sit around talking about it on their podcast, and maybe that's just how they process it, but it's starting to kind of just feel like a little bit icky if I keep listening to this. And I know that that's a lot of different people's take, but that's kind of just how I personally feel. Also, I found out some very like disturbing news because my friend Laura, everyone knows she was on the podcast in December. I found out that Pedro Pascal's family, his dad was in part of an infertility treatment scandal. Now, he himself didn't do anything, from my understanding, that committed fertility fraud, but financial fraud. But it's just all these things, like the internet comes and goes all over the place. And I know people are going to say, Sarah, why'd you just have to do that to me? Why? Why? I don't know. I just have been having so many things going through my mind. And yes, the nicer weather and some other things have helped me sleep better and just be better, but it's still not like 100%. I'm good to go, feeling like everything in this world is perfect. Like there was another mesh kind of shooting happening this week in Kentucky on Monday, and it just keeps going. And it's like, is there ever going to be a break, even when other things change? And I know that I got kind of off topic of the whole acting stuff, but that's just kind of where I felt like, oh, we look and have these kind of parasocial relationships. And I know I'm probably just as bad about it, but it's just like it's never ending. And I can't fathom like how we like put these people on a pedestal, and nobody's perfect. I get that. And defending people comes and goes, and I probably not everyone's gonna be great, but it's just that I kind of have been sitting with these feelings the past couple of days, and the more that I see those clips of Josh Peck and Jeanette McCurdy, him saying he got blocked by her, I don't blame her. It was traumatizing. And the fact is that even yesterday, Drake Bell went missing. It's just like so many different things. And people are like, after Selena did My Mind and Me, they want to do more with that. And I feel bad. Like, I understand, like, people want a certain level of fame, but I keep realizing that what I've wanted to do, like I've always said, but that it just becomes clearer and clearer to me every time, is that I don't ever want that level of fame. Yes, I want to be recognized. Yes, I edit so much stuff and I try to make content that people will watch. But I don't think I want that where it's just blasting all over me. And I think that that is just a very interesting lesson to learn for a lot of people. And I just say that, and yes, I get on here and complain little bit, but I kind of notice it within the shows that I even watch, that it's like I want characters with humility, humanity inside, that have real people qualities to it. That's what, again, I love about Single Drunk Female. I love about, kind of just some of these, even though How I Met Your Mother isn't completely realistic, it does have some very good humanic moments. Animal Control, all those, like the sitcoms, the comedy, drama, Young Sheldon, like all of them, Lucifer, like I know that they're kind of supernatural or just completely fake out of there, but there's just moments where you see real human emotion and it makes you feel something. And I know that that's part of acting, but I just feel like the way that writers do such a good job too, and with the writer's strike coming up, I just want to applaud all of the writers, and I stand with you, that are going through this right now. So yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about where people are now talking about self-diagnosis, all the things that they hear on the internet. And again, I know that I'm bringing up my ADHD, but this is a prime example. When people ask me for resources to figure out or to help diagnose because they don't have the money, etc., I love that I could help out, but I'm not an expert, and I know that I'm not fitting for a lot of things. But if you go to NAMI and some of those other sites, NAMI is a great way to start for a screening tool, but here's the thing. It's like all over social media, and I know that this month is Autism Awareness Month, but this has been a very good insight that I've noticed. I know what I'm not, and I say that constantly, and people now are luckily speaking out on that on site with the TikTok and the Reels Instagram community, and there's nothing wrong, let me just say that, with any of these diagnoses, but it just goes to show like everybody thinks that they know something from like a little meniscus of research. So again, people are making such these broad terms and making these very ridiculous comments and talking about very nuanced things without them actually being reasonably of an expert or vetting people talking or finding real articles from recent years that I have it, here's my screening test. Like, no, 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 no. Also, I think with the whole influencer culture, etc., I think everything becomes more like, I don't know, and overwhelming. But I do want to talk a little bit about the chicken Moana incident because that has been beyond ridiculous and disturbing. So that's another reason that I'm coming on here to talk about because I think it's so gross and disturbing that they have to do that. And it's a spectrum. But the fact that you're comparing like a nonverbal person to that chicken on Moana, that's not right. And again, it's not really my place to talk about a lot of these issues, but I just want to use my platform to at least explain, acknowledge, like I can see your pain. I will not fully understand the full concept of every little detail or every little intricacy that goes on there, but I will say as a human being, I understand why that's wrong. Also, with it being Sexual Assault Awareness Month, I stand with all the people who have been. I also wanted to say that there has been a lot of issues with the Dalai Lama, etc., and that has there's not enough time to get into a lot of reasons why that's wrong, but I wanted to at least acknowledge that that's going around as well, because I think that we don't usually take a lot of time to really sit with it. Like, we talk about it, things are all over the news, there's so many things that happen, and I just want to stand by again how wrong it is because so many people are deflecting because he's such a public figure. And that's just, no, we're not going to do that. So as we continue, I do want to finish up a little bit, talk a little bit about some of the things that I have noticed. Yes, within Grey's with Maggie's farewell episode and all my opinions, obviously. But yes, Mika made me really mad last week, but now I see the burnout inside of her and I feel super bad for her. Also, the whole Lucas situation with Prue made me laugh really hard because that is my life. I have a big family, as people have noticed, and it shows again how, like, people go, you don't want to do it, but you have to. And it just, again, all around great to see also though Bailey go back to her Residence Day kind of spiel. I also personally like the friendships developing between others. I really hate the triangle. I don't want a Jackson repeater. I think I've mentioned that multiple times, and that's just where I see the direction going every time I keep watching. And I personally love that Winston staying. I don't like what happened with Kai last night and Amelia. I don't really pay attention too much to Kai and Amelia because they're just there. Both of them are there. And Kai, they don't really want to be as much in a real relationship. So that's kind of my takeaway. Do I love ER Fight Master? Do I love them? Yes. Do I think they are a phenomenal actor? Yes. But do I think that the writers screwed it up? 100%. Am I not into Joe Link as much? Not really. But did you think it was sweet with the whole Luna stuff that was happening last night? 1,000%. And it's just going on the same level. Am I excited for Levi to be in Pete's potentially? Do you think that Mika needs like a big hug and a lot of sleep and food? Yes, but Lucas has got that taken care of pretty much. He's again, that's why I see a lot of myself in him with the ADHD. As I can tell, I know that's probably not gonna be really a thing. I wish it were, but you know how much people love to say that, they can't make it really happen, but I hope that they do. I think that, it's very interesting. Blue, I have a love hate still with. Jules and Simone need more screen time together. I actually like seeing them become more each other's person. I used to kind of think that her and Mika, but Mika's got Lucas, and I hope it's like a Mark and Callie thing. I know people say that that's gonna throw a wrench with the whole Taryn thing, but either way, right now, this poor girl, Mika Yasuda, and Midori Francis does phenomenal, like I always say. The whole cast does phenomenal. The whole like family, like watching the behind the scenes yesterday on the Kelly takeover. Kelly McCreary did phenomenal as Maggie. I'd actually say that Maggie was never my favorite person, but her exit was so phenomenal. I cannot get over how much I enjoyed seeing that end scene with her two moms side by side. Catherine, I cannot have Catherine die. I know people are going to be like, oh my gosh, you still like Catherine? Of course I do. I know she has her flaws, but she you see the warmth and the humility she brings to the table, and you think about a lot of the different things. And I just, Amelia, yeah, everyone's kind of abandoned her, but that comment about, oh, did Mayor send you to Addison? It's like, Addison's like, you're a grown adult. I just come here because I'm driving the PRT, whatever. And that's true, but it just shows the level. But the ridiculousness, honestly, Jules and Amelia are starting to seem a little more similar with some of the out of line things that they say. But again, Jules to me gives me off like a Lexi vibe more than an Izzy vibe. And people keep saying to me, is that because you just hate Izzy? Not really. Like the more time that you spend, you see that it's more like Jules is more a combo of Lexi and Joe, and people who want to have Joe and Jules together, I kind of see it. I can get on board with it, no doubt, but I kind of like the mentorship that there's potentially there too. Again, I really like mentorships. I want to see more of Nick and Lucas together and see how that goes on. I really want to see if there's more shepherds that come in. I found out that, yeah, Lucas's character had his sister on the show recently. Like, can they give us a Amelia and Derek 2.0 without like it being like as toxic, obviously? But can they give us, played by actual siblings for once? That would be really cool in my mind. I mean, yes, they did that with, Maggie and the cousin. Her sister winded up playing, but it's just, I would love to see that. That would be kind of a first. And I know that I said, like, oh, it would be a first if Mika and Lucas got together. It would do some, like, of the Polynesian action diversity. And then you're like, oh, wait, there's also a Burke. They're recycling so much stuff, but that's one thing I wouldn't really, like, again, mind recycling the whole Arizona being Tara and Callie being Mika, and then Lucas being like Mark in that situation. Now they're kind of doing that on Station 19, and the whole thing I did not see, which I did see, but I did not see that like whirlwind of all the stuff that happened in the past two episodes. Like, yes, I knew Eli and Travis were gonna become a thing, kind of, but then Travis dropping out of the race, all this stuff is just beyond. But Maya's actually getting slightly better, so I'm rooting for Marina, obviously. I think Jack needs a head CT more than anything, which is a bunch of the same things people keep saying. But it's just a never ending, like, what is going on with these writers? And some of the time they're probably keep introducing more people that they can't keep up with. And it's just so, oh my gosh, my head can't even fathom it. And then with a lot of people saying the same thing over and over again of, well, they're have too many characters, they forget about this and that. Well, a lot of the TV can't have a lot of these kids more than early on, so that makes sense. Also, I do think that the 20th season should probably be the last, but can we talk about just a final little thing on this of that Station 19 needs to be renewed? But speaking of other shows that need to be renewed, I think about how Not Dead Yet. There's so many else, Animal Control, but I know that a lot of those might not get a second sophomore season, which is fine, whatever. But it's just so funny because I think through like all the shows that I would expect or hope to get another season, and then it's like they always go to the curb, and then it makes you wonder like how is some of these shows still on. And I know that that's a lot of people's feelings about Grey's, and I completely understand because again I keep going back and forth. The only reason I keep watching is again because of the new interns and the fact that Bailey is coming back as more Bailey from the attending and resident era. So yeah. And again, I just love those Station 19, how it's like the writing has become phenomenal this past season. And I know I use that word all the time, but it's so true. It's brilliant. And I think that again, we should give credit to so many of the writers out there because there's so much stuff that we don't even realize the cast and crew does in itself. But the production crew, I want to give a lot of love to them because I completely see where you wouldn't have these shows without them. And I think that we as human beings just watch the people in front, but then when you've taken a step back to really see how it all goes in for editing, I've learned and had much more appreciation since doing this podcast. So I just wanted to touch on that, but can we talk about as I wrap up this week's episode, and I can't believe I'm 49 episodes in. I can't believe next week with the 50th episode, it will be a whole year since I, started this process. And I'm so proud that I've made it through this year. So grateful for anyone who listens, who's been here on a journey since day one and has put up with my chaotic brain and where I talk about everything under the sun. But yes, Abbott Elementary had the incredible actress Taraja P. Henson, who played her mom, who played Janine's mom, and honestly, the friendship between Barbara, work mom, and Janine, it just made my heart so warm, and how much she was willing to go to bat for Janine with the situations with her mom. You start to learn a lot more, and I cannot get over how wholesome and how hilarious everyone is. So great with each other. Everyone gels. The comedic timing is just all there. And I would love to see this go on for another 10 years. I don't think it will, but hopefully it gets to at least 6 or 7 seasons. And I just love it so much. I think it's great because it's also based off of a real show, situation, school. And again, the reason that I still talk and gush so much about this is that, you start to realize why Janine's a little bit needier than she seemed before, or why she has this kind of, gear towards Barbara, and how she needs to feel the stability that she never had. And that's why she's so in touch with her students. And I know she based the character off of, the actual teacher there, but also a part of Shuli because of her mom being a teacher. And it's just so great to watch and see, how much these characters can evolve when it's so many, but you see in a 30-minute span, but it's just so well done, and I wanted to commend that show for everything. So yeah, this has been GenZ-Gab, episode 49, and we will see you soon. Bye.